David. Great to see you. I love the hat today.
Such a pleasure. Thank you so much. I love that the hat is the
Absolutely.
same hat that I sent you the photo of, and I'm literally wearing the exact same t-shirt that I sent in the photo, even though that photo
Love it.
was like 6 months ago.
Hey, you know, it's all good. Now, in 1 week, I better see a green hat. You do know it's St. Patty's Day.
I will have all green on. I just didn't want you to think
Good.
that I wear the same thing every day.
No, by no means. As long as you're drinking Jax, it's whatever you want to wear.
I'm always
For me.
drinking Jax, and now thank goodness so many new customers are going to be drinking Jax because I'm hoping to take all of the enthusiasm and the support that we built at my previous employer and now apply them to my new employer. And it was fun.
And David, you always have been such a huge supporter of us. And I'll tell you, now more than ever, small family-owned wineries that have not been in big chains, and we're always in really fine retail accounts like you. You tell the story. It's hard, during these times. So I just appreciate all your help and support over the years.
Well, I'll tell you what most customer support right now. This is the number one thing that happens in marketing meetings today, and I don't know whether I should laugh or if I'm just getting old, but it's this idea where people say, how do we get you more followers? How do we get more hits and more likes on your social media? And my answer is,
right.
Give me a product that tastes good, that's well priced, that has good reviews and good scores, and that's the best possible marketing that you can give me. I don't need to go viral.
Thank you.
I don't need a million TikTok followers. I need a $50 cab that drinks well now. I need a $20 cab that drinks well now. And in between those things, I need a smattering of good Chardonnays, Pinot Noirs, and maybe like for a special occasion, $100 bottle of cab, that I can give to somebody. And Jax ticks all those boxes every time.
Thank you. And not only that, we still have world-renowned Kirk Vengi as our winemaker. All of these wines score well over 90 points by the top raters. And, so while we do, oh, that's cute. I love the dog.
That's a cat, and that won't be the last time.
Guess what? On our team page on our website, you'll see that the dog is the VP of marketing. So
Nice.
We're very animal friendly. So very apropos.
Nice.
Yes.
There's so much to like about Jax, and it's really just a matter of introducing it to more people and introducing them to you. So that's really the point of tonight was to put a face to the brand and to have them meet you and to have me ask questions so that that you look really good.
Thank you. And we've been doing this for 20 years, and even though I'm the co-founder and majority owner, I'm still out there selling the wine. I'm still pounding the pavement. I still give tastings to our customers. We have chosen not to grow crazy. We have chosen to be soulful. We're totally family owned. We have, my partner is not in my family as well. He's the president at the moment. But when I say family, it is truly blood family, but everyone on our team is so tight. And I will tell you, owning a winery or running a winery does not work unless you've got true family, because you need so many different functions to do well, right? I mean, of course, someone's got to know all about vineyards. Someone's got to know about winemaking. But who would have known you've got to have an MBA, do forecasting, be a guru at social media, public speaker, here we are.
Right.
The roles and the hats that you've got to wear require true connection and passion by everybody. And I think the fact that we've chosen to stay small and organic, our growth has been very consistently strong. Let's see if I can get
there you
right.
go. Yeah, I like that one.
But yet not huge, right? We really are about quality and, all of that at the same time. So it's kind of that fine line that we strive to achieve.
Well, let's talk a little bit about, all of those things that you just mentioned about that you don't plan on when you start a winery. What was your journey into this? How did you get started in this? I always ask people this because so many people who are into wine have this fantasy about starting their own winery and buying a vineyard.
Yes.
I was watching Sideways the other night, and he's like, man, we should buy a vineyard, move up here, you make the wine. I mean, everybody has the romantic notion. So how does it come to fruition? Tell us about that.
Exactly. Well, first of all, there's 3,000 wineries in California alone. So let's just talk about, the competition alone. You have to be passionate to do this because it's not really an efficient marketplace. People do it because they love it. Oftentimes they've already made money in other things. So for me, it was very unique in that I was actually getting my MBA at Vanderbilt Business School. My father has a tremendous green thumb. We were always having to garden on the weekends and pull the weeds, and it wasn't, that piece of the weekend wasn't my favorite, but his dream was always to own a vineyard in the land. He did not want to actually start a winery. So when he retired, he and my mother, who's also very involved in the winery in different ways, which I'll tell you about in a little bit, they pursued the search for the ultimate vineyard. And of course, location, soil, climate, all of these things are critical. And he is so passionate about the actual vineyard itself that he settled after 5 years of searching for this vineyard in Calistoga. Now, I was on a track and had always been in technology. I was working in New York City prior. I was getting my degree in finance and had, again, all this experience in technology. But I was watching my father and my mom on their journey and their real connection with the vineyard. So they found this lovely vineyard in northern Calistoga. If we look at the map, it's the most northern town in the Napa Valley area. They bought this vineyard, and my dad's intention was just to do the farming. So that was it. He was going to be obsessive, compulsive about that, which he is. He loves it. He feels that soil. There's pictures of him all over our website on the mule. Anyway, so he purchased the land, and after a couple of years, where we would sell the fruit to other wineries in the area, we inherited those contracts. My brother, he was out here in San Francisco, and I was still on the East Coast, but I was, of course, always passionate about wine, very excited about it, always had been around it, always had enjoyed it. I was the only one in the South drinking wine as getting my MBA. Everyone's drinking all the hard alcohol at the time. Right. And so my brother took some of the fruit that was left over on just a parcel of that vineyard, and he decided to make his own wine. He basically made it in the garage in San Francisco. He had a garage, and he just self-taught. It turned out to be vinegar, but that got me really excited. And, although we had salad dressing that lasted about 10 years from that first vintage that he tried to do in the garage, we all got really excited about the prospect of starting a wine. And so the next year, he and my parents, and I was helping from afar, but they started their first vintage of Cabernet Sauvignon. They took only 1 ton. They made 60 cases, and they made the first wine called Jackson Ridge.
Oh, wow. That's the first label?
1996.
Wow.
Yes, the first label. In our tasting room, this is the actual label. It's in the tasting room. It's kind of hard to see, but it's actually there. So that was where our original label was born. So Trent, my brother, he was learning, wow, this is a lot of work. Wow, this is a lot of money. But he was hand selling the wine. He was, really selling it to direct to consumer. After about 4 years, he realized that he needed help. I started the wine club at Vanderbilt. It was the hottest thing at Vanderbilt. Everyone was gravitating toward it. Everyone my age was interested in the mechanics behind the wine, the details. So I knew at the time when we only saw the big established wineries, those small kind of entrepreneur wineries were not a thing in those days. So I saw a real need for something different, something more innovative, something more modern, across all boundaries, something not expensive, something not pretentious and intimidating. Anyway, so after I graduated, and my brother and my parents had been doing this label a little bit, they then said, hey, they asked me, why don't you join this? This is your strength. This is your passion. You love branding. You know how to, you got your MBA. Give it a shot for 1 year. So we were kind of backed up a couple of years. I had no training in wine, but I just went out, pounded the pavement in San Francisco, and got into a bunch of really hot restaurants and accounts. And then basically a couple years later, we were asked to change our name because another company had the same name. And so that made me really think, do I like this business? I have to change the name. I've been pounding the pavement for 5 years. I've learned all about the business. And so that's where I really got serious. And that's where I really took a step back. And I thought, okay, so I've been doing this a couple years. It's going well. I have no distribution. I hand sell everything. I got my car stolen hand delivering wines in the middle of the Tenderloin in San Francisco.
Right.
I did everything. I had no employees. And so I thought, okay, what is it who do I want to be? What do we want to be? And so that's where we decided, really to change the name from Jackson Ridge to Jax. And we knew that we wanted to be, of course, focused on terroir. We don't want to mask the integrity of the actual fruit with heavy oak, heavy cream, all the avant-garde kind of, not avant-garde, the kind of en vogue style of that day. I wanted to be modern and approachable in price point. I didn't want to start making $100 cab, even though we're getting 94 points and 95 points and 97 points by even Parker. Yeah. I wanted it to really stay approachable. And so we changed the name to Jax. We got famous Kirk Vengi as our winemaker. And now we have two different lines. We have the Jax, which is our small production single vineyard wines, which is a little more expensive, right? These are like $50-ish price points. Mm-hmm. But I started Y3, which are all like, $18 to $28 price points. Yep. So we really run the gamut, but we're serious winemakers, and that's what I love. I love doing that.
Well, and you do it well, and that's not easy to do, especially as you said, when you're a family-run winery that doesn't have a full-scale marketing team, doesn't have all of these accoutrements that these big producers have. This is there has been a previous Instagram Live where Tommy stopped the recording, so I'm a little more sensitive now. Long story short. Let's talk about some of the things that have happened in Napa that have affected wineries like yourself and other smaller wineries who don't have like the deep pockets and the funds and the distributions, things like wildfires, things like climate change, that are, if you have a bad vintage or if you have a bad year, you might be wiped out of business. You can't just, eat that year and afford to keep paying your salaries and rely on the deep pockets of a big investor, right?
That's exactly right. Really great point, David. And, we literally have like 4 employees full time, and then we have our tasting room staff and all that. But we are lean and we're mean and we do it all. And so not only to mention global change and all that, which I'm going to talk about, just think about COVID. The only way to sell wine is really through distributors, right? And a lot of that is the big companies have the deep pockets. And it is true, let's do a spiff. We'll pay $20 a case. We're going to do this advertisement. And it really polarizes the big wineries and the small wineries. And I'm not saying a big winery isn't great. I mean, there are incredible wines out there, but our approach is truly to stay, soulful. When you come to our tasting room, I mean, the whole experience is direct contact with us. And so, the ways that we've stayed afloat is to do very heavy duty online, virtual events like this. We've done a ton on Facebook Live, more so than Instagram, but we do all of these things. We We do a ton of social media, and I'm really spearheading that. It's really all about that deep connection with our consumer. We've just reopened our tasting room in the city, and it's amazing how much people want to be here. They want to be outside. They want to come. They want to celebrate. And so that's great. So just the COVID thing, it was the first piece. The second piece is the global warming, and that's a great question because we're smack dab in Calistoga. So the fires hit us hard in 2017, not even to mention 2019. 2017, we had a ton of our property damaged. We did not have the vineyards damaged, but yet all of our neighbors were burned down. We had one vineyard, a neighbor 10 feet from our vines that burned down, but ours did not. And that is effectively our drip irrigation was pretty much the savior, and then the wind. What is so scary is that climate change is it will impact agriculture like the wine so dramatically. And a great analogy to that is AVAs. Okay, so AVAs are when you like break up, like Napa Valley. We've got, many AVAs, and they're just agricultural vintage areas. And they literally, Napa is broken down into like Oak Knoll, Yountville, St. Helena. The difference in temperature can be as little as 3 degrees. The soil's different, the wind's different, but it's not major differences. So if we think about global warming, they're talking about the rising of temperature by about 3%. And that's like an environmental control group said that. Do you know that the differential in average temperatures between us and Calistoga and St. Helena is 3%? That tells you how crazy it's going to be. And temperature on the polarity side of things is what kills vines. So, for example, when vines hit over 95 degrees, you start getting raisoning. The compounds break down. You don't get that same complexity. And on the inverse, if in the winter the temperatures are not under 50 degrees at least 6 hours per 24-hour period, then you're going to get early bud break. And those are newborn babies. Think of it like that. So if we see like in January and February, like exorbitantly warmer weather, even by 2 degrees, once that bud breaks, we've got newborns.
Right.
So then if it freezes again, we're dead. So you got all the shattering there. And then on top of all of that, those sort of variables, and then if, where you might see cooler climates start to plant vineyards, and maybe we'll go even more north into more of Oregon and Washington, it's going to kill Napa. We are over 90% of total exports in wine in the entire United States.
Right.
It's Napa.
Yeah.
So our acreage is not cheap.
Right.
We all invested a ton of money to grow grapes in Napa. And so it's incredibly scary. Now, the 2017 fires, we did lose our one vintage. And then with the last year's fire, 2020, 85% of Napa Cab was destroyed.
Wait, so you lost an entire vintage? So you didn't release in
2017? Yeah.
So what is that? I mean, like, how does a small business recover from having a complete year off the books?
Well, it's brutal. It's really brutal. Okay, so in 2017, we didn't lose we lost a couple blocks, so we have a smaller amount. It's interesting. These fires happened right in the middle of harvest. So the good news is this 2019, we lost nothing because we picked the Friday before.
Wow.
In 2017, we picked some blocks, but our total supply is very much down. But for example, our Kalisa Pinot we lost in 2019. So it's just you have to skip a vintage, and that's why you're going to see prices rise unless people go to other regions of the world for the wine. But I do think Napa prices are going to rise dramatically because of the lower supply.
It's interesting from a tourism side too. I always thought that you guys did the smartest thing ever, which was to open the tasting bar in downtown San Francisco. I mean, that's one of the first things that I tell everybody about Jax, which is they didn't wait for anybody to come to them. They opened it in downtown San Francisco and let everybody, go there after work for happy hour. I mean, you and I have hosted events there. I've gone there to hang out.
Yes.
I was working down the street, obviously. That was always such a smart decision because right now with COVID as well, like you were talking about, you guys are open again.
And it's out here.
Oh, yeah, there you are. You're there right now. You're on Brannan Street.
Fire pits, exactly. It's a good point, David, because it was a huge gamble. You know, as a Napa Valley winery, everyone has their official tasting room and premier tasting room in Napa. And again, knowing our demographic, knowing that, it is slightly younger, urban, and let's put it frank. It's can I invest $5 million and just be some other winery, or let's be unique and let's make this. It's very industrial. We reflect Napa here. We literally have vines from our vineyard here. We've got olive trees. We've got fire pits, and so it was a big gamble. But we do differentiate ourselves, and then I do VIP tastings as well as my partners in Calistoga, in the summer and fall. But this is a great differentiator for us, and it did pay off.
I always think about how many people. I mean, everybody always says if you just try our wine, you'll love it and you'll come back for more, and that's what everybody wants to believe. But I always feel like Jax is one of like a handful of wines that I have proof of thousands of receipts of people who have bought a bottle and come back for seconds. And, when you get the opportunity to hang out with somebody special or to have an anniversary or to spend time with people, you think really carefully about the wines that you're going to open, either because you want it to be memorable or because you want to impress them. And in the case of me, I've had a couple of instances over the last 5 years where I wanted to impress somebody. So I brought one really like baller label, like a well-recognized expensive label. And I always bring a bottle of Jax as the second label. And I can say that, 9 times out of 10, the Jax is always the one that people say, oh, wow, that was actually the better of the two wines. And it's always great to have that side-by-side, comparison. And
I always love that. Yeah. I say brown bag our cab against, a cab twice as much. And I did this recently and I was very pleased. Yeah, right. And it's just, and I'll tell you, as a winery owner, when people are drinking your wine, like let's say, of course, some vintages aren't as great as others, right? It's Mother Nature. And I cringe when I know my wine is just, it's a rough vintage. Believe me, we all sweat. We sweat bullets about that wine. We are obsessed and crazy about it. And so, it does mean a lot when you say that, David, because I know you get to taste every great wine out there.
And I get, I will say that one of the real memories of my life, like one of the great unreal moments for me was when we had the house in Las Vegas. We were there one night and I had done some celebrity interviews for my old blog. And one of the guys that I got to interview was one of my heroes as a kid. It was Kevin Nash, who's a famous WWF Hall of Fame wrestler. And he was in town that night for a convention, and he invited me to come to his hotel room and drink wine all night long. So for 5.5 hours, I sat with WWF royalty, and he told me everything about it. And we drank Jax all night long. And I have a photo of him drinking the Jax, and when he flew back home to Florida, the first thing he did was call me and said, hey, how do I get a case of Jax? And so I have all these like really important moments in my life that are associated with your brand. So I just wanted to tell you that it's had an impact on my career in terms of sales. Obviously, we've done well selling the wine, but it's also been a big part of like very special memories for me as well.
Thank you. Thank you. And I love it when people send us pictures enjoying it like their child is Jax.
Right.
Whatever the occasion, that's what makes me flip out and do high kicks.
Yeah.
My other Instagram account is High Kicker. That's what makes me do the high kick. So
I love it. Well, I mean, You guys do a great job. You're incredibly generous. You're great people. I like that you roll up your sleeves and do the hard work. I always respect people that are willing, like you said earlier, to pound the pavement and go out there and like actually do the work rather than, assume that a Parker score is going to do all the work for you. It's just refreshing. And I wish, I wish I could introduce more people to you and to your wines. So that's, hopefully we'll achieve that tonight.
Yeah, and the fact we're in San Francisco, if people are here, we are open Thursday, Friday, Saturdays from 4 to 8 p.m. So really accessible. We would love to host you all, and just come visit us, check in. It's your word of mouth that is basically what makes us who we are. It's the richest marketing out there.
That and cats.
And your cat
and cats,
too,
always.
Right? Yes.
Cats are the best marketing. That's why they always, people think I feed them to do this, but they're just naturally social. So, anyways, thanks for joining us tonight. I'll let you go. And
thank you, David.
I'll post this on the YouTube and on the blog later so more people can watch it. We'll send you the link. We can send it out.
Thanks for everything, David.
Of course.
I really appreciate it.
Great visiting with you.
Have a great night. Okay.